Coming up next, it's the Hounds of Hell's Brody King facing off the Learning Trees, Bryan Keith. Welcome back to ringside in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for AEW Collision. And making his way to the ring right now is Brody King. And he's accompanied to the ring by Julia Hart. Brody King now is the #1 contender for the Ring of Honor Championship. He'll be getting a shot at that title in Philadelphia on the April 6th at AEW Dynasty. But right now he's facing off one of Chris Jericho's lackeys in Bryan Keith. Back at AEW Collision on the March 15th edition, we saw Brody King pick up a victory over the Learning Trees Big Bill. If Brody King manages to secure a victory over Bryan Keith tonight, this brings Brody King up to more momentum coming up into Dynasty. Chris Jericho was meant to defend his Ring of Honor Championship to Homicide if he was to win this match against Brody King at Dynasty, but unfortunately Homicide has retired from active competition. We'll have more details on that on the next edition of Ring of Honor TV, but Homicide is no longer a challenger for the Ring of Honor Championship. And here comes Bryan Keith now, and Chris Jericho has been very vocal about his frustrations with Big Bill and Bryan Keith. The Learning Tree has not been bringing in the victories, with the exception of Chris Jericho, who is the current Ring of Honor World Champion. So Chris Jericho is demanding that Bryan Keith get his act together in this match tonight and pick up a win against Brody King. And that's easier said than done, because we know that Brody King is a dangerous athlete in AEW. He's a former AEW Tag Team Champion and the AEW Trios Champion. A man that is very difficult to beat. But Chris Jericho did beat him a little while ago. That was in a non-title match. But Brody King has picked up more victories and gained a title shot against Chris Jericho. Brody King staring intently at Bryan Keith. Bryan Keith on the other side. Referee calls for the bell, and here we go. And Bryan Keith charging in, but he had Brody King with that sidewalk slam. What a strike there by Brody King, knocking down Bryan Keith. Off the ropes. Oh, bicycle kick. Down goes Bryan Keith. Here's a cover. One. Oh, just a 1 count there. Bryan Keith kicking out of that one. Springboard, clothesline. Down goes Brody King. Here's the cover. Kick out there. Not even a 1 count there. Now Bryan Keith now striking away. DDT to Brody King. Bryan Keith now. He just kicks off Bryan Keith. Went for a discus forearm smash, missed it. Bryan Keith now with a forearm smash to the back of Brody King. Ducks under. Went for a waist lock. Looked like he was going to go for a belly to belly. But he's met with another bicycle kick by Brody King. And here goes Brody King now, who knows nothing but violence. Springboard drop kick there by Bryan Keith. Now Bryan Keith taking control. Now he's just stomping away on the chest of Brody King. Springboard moonsault lands perfectly onto Brody King. And now King is in trouble. Kick to the gut. Look out here. Power bomb. And Bryan Keith now waiting for Brody King to get to his feet. Kick to the gut. Hooks the arms. Oh, what a power bomb there. Here's a cover. 1, 2. Oh, he just kicked out of that one. What a discus clothesline there. Bryan Keith caught off guard. And there's the relentless assault by Brody King. Brody King now bringing Bryan Keith to his feet. Tie up. He's got him up. No, Bryan Keith breaks out of the grip. Oh, what a chop block there. Down goes Brody King. He rolls to the outside of the ring. Bryan Keith now. Don't know what he's signaling here. Oh, somersault plancha, and it lands onto Brody King. Tie up by Brody King. Gets him back into the ring. Bryan Keith now. Oh, no. Brody King kicks Bryan Keith off him. Hurricanrana, and Bryan Keith goes down. Brody King now. Oh, went for a chop there. But Bryan Keith dodged out of the way of that one. Irish whip into the ropes. Ducks under. Leapfrog. And oh no. Brody King stops him and hits him with a headbutt. Hurricanrana, down goes Bryan Keith. Now Brody King now tie up. Kick to the gut there. And a power bomb coming up. Yes, he gets it. And Bryan Keith is in trouble. Brody King now. Tie up. Slams Bryan Keith's head into the turnbuckle. And again, look out here. Sets him up on the top rope. What's going to happen now? One-handed power bomb. And Bryan Keith is driven halfway across the ring. Big boot, and Bryan Keith goes over the top rope and onto the floor. Oh, what a suicide dive there by Brody King. Bryan Keith is in trouble. Brody King now has on a Bryan Keith, slams him into the security guardrail. Oh, what a European uppercut there by Brody King. And look at this. Oh, he just swings Bryan Keith into the security guardrail. And Big Bill now getting into the face of Brody King. Big Bill and Brody King having an exchange of words now. Bryan Keith rolling back into the ring. Waistlock applied by Bryan Keith. Whips him into the ropes. Ducks under. Leapfrog. Go for a bear hug. Oh no, look at that. I thought he was going to go for a belly to belly. We're going to go for a... Oh, what a Harlem sidekick there by Bryan Keith. Now he's kicking Brody King's head like a soccer ball. But no, Brody King regaining momentum. Has hold of Bryan Keith. Oh, look at that strike. What a clothesline there. And Bryan Keith has been knocked off his feet. Brody King now trying to crawl back up to the ropes to try and regain his composure. And Brody King now. Oh, off the ropes. What a sharp lariat there by Bryan Keith. Oh, look at this. A suicide dive to Chris Jericho. Brody King now is going after the learning tree. Oh, and Bryan Keith went to do a suicide dive of his own to Brody King, but he landed into Big Bill. And Brody King just clotheslined Chris Jericho. And Big Bill has been ejected from ringside. Bryan Keith rolls back into the ring. Big Bill now. Oh, look at that pile driver. He hits it with such precision. He calls that move the all-seeing eye. And Brody King gets the pinfall over Bryan Keith. Brody King picks up another victory, this time to Bryan Keith. And Chris Jericho now intently looking on at the next challenger for his Ring of Honor World Championship. And in a couple of weeks, could we see a new Ring of Honor World Champion?